Hi, I'm Candace Cameron with Colorado Fastpitch Academy. Today I will be talking about how to properly find the right size and weight of bat for your daughter. For starters, what type or name brand of bat you get is personal choice. I will tell you that one thing you can keep in mind about all bats is that they're all required to be 1.20 BPF, which basically means that that's how quickly the ball bounces off of the bat. So ultimately, since they're all required to meet that rule, no bat can really technically be better than the other. I will say there's definitely a consensus that the composite bat will have a little bit better pop than an aluminum bat, which is why composite bats are now so popular nowadays. As far as one of the things you want to look for, the first thing you always want to make sure of, particularly if you're buying a used bat, is whether or not the bat you have has got all the proper stamps on it. The USSSA stamp looks kind of like a thumbprint, and the ASA stamp looks like a home plate. There are a lot of bats that don't have all of the stamps on it, especially if they're an older bat, so you do want to check for that, otherwise you might not be able to use the bat in the tournament that you're playing in. There's even new bats being made every day that don't necessarily have both stamps. The Ghost bat that came out a couple years ago was created with one bat being legal in USSSA and the other bat was legal in ASA. Therefore, in order to be able to be legal in both tournaments, you had to own both bats. So keep an eye on those stamps to make sure that what you're getting is going to be legal and be able to be used. Bats are not cheap, so you don't want to not be able to use it. As far as the weight of your bat, the first thing you want to keep in mind is that not all bats are weighted the same. For example, this is an end-loaded bat. That means that the weight is mostly at the end of the bat. It is personal opinion as to whether or not this is something you might prefer. I will say that my students that like the end-loaded bat say they like it because they feel like it helps them hit the ball farther. My students that don't like it say it's because they feel like the bat slows their swing down because the bat feels heavier. One of the first things that you want to check for if you're going to get an end-loaded bat is what weight will work for you. For example, if you tend to normally go with a bat that's say 33-23, you may want to drop down by 1 ounce when you're doing an end-loaded bat, so that way the bat doesn't feel quite as heavy. So instead of a 33-23, if you're going with an end-loaded bat, you would drop down to 33-22. Now, finding the proper size, or should I say length, of your bat that you're looking for, I have a little trick. I always tell my students to stand with their bat at their side while they have good posture, letting their arms dangle. You want the bat to basically be at the wrist, the knob of the bat to be at the wrist, or it's okay if it's a little bit above the wrist by about 1 inch, if the person that you're buying the bat for is still growing. Bats can be kind of like shoes. You don't want to buy something that your kid is about to grow out of, particularly with how expensive they are. So if it's a little bit above the wrist, that means that when they grow, it'll still be at the wrist and ultimately still be the appropriate size. If you buy something that's at their wrist and then they hit a growth spurt, now all of a sudden it may no longer be the right size for them and you've got to turn around and buy a whole nother bat. So if they're done growing, being at the wrist is perfect. But if they still have some growing to do, a little bit above the wrist is probably better. As far as how to determine if the weight is appropriate, some people will talk about doing a trick where you hold the bat out to your side and try to hold it and see how heavy it feels. Yeah, that sort of works for the most part. You can kind of tell how heavy it feels to you. But honestly, I feel like you should just swing the bat. When you swing the bat, you can tell a lot about how heavy it feels to you. You can decide if it feels light, heavy, or just right, particularly if you go to a store and swing a couple different weights. If you're swinging a -10, like this one is a -10, and you can see there, -10, that means that its length is 33, so the weight is 23. And I feel like if I swung the 23 and it felt a little heavy, then I might drop down to the 22. If I swing the 22 and I feel like it feels really light, then maybe the 23 was the right amount for me. Truthfully, it's always good to go with something that's just a little bit more than a little bit less. The weight of your bat is what's going to give you your power. You can always swing it and work on that strength to build up to being able to use that bat. But if you buy a bat that's super light and you continue to get stronger, it's going to get to the point where it's too light for you. And you want to take advantage of using as much weight as you possibly can. So if you can handle a heavier bat, you want to get the heavier bat, but only if it does not slow down your bat speed. So it's always good when you're testing out the weight to have someone watch you swing and then see, was the swing slower when that person swung that bat, or was it the same speed as when they swung that other weight? If they notice a difference in your bat speed, then the bat might be too heavy for you.